Simultaneous attacks.
Intense questioning has just begun.
Targets of the planned attack are senior officials.
Military forces in Germany on high alert.
Within the next 24 hours.
Each student knows what his or her role will be. They get a confidential briefing sheet a week before the simulation, so they have a week to prepare. They have no idea what the facts will be, and so the test here, ultimately, is to be able to take the legal and policy aspects that they've learned and then apply it to the facts which are thrown at them during the course of the day.
This is the president.
So what are we going to do with these people? We do have...
There are three simultaneous scenarios, or three simultaneous settings here. There are the president and his cabinet in Washington. There are the city officials of New York and the American ambassador and her staff in Paris, who have been able to link all three together by video conferencing. And during the course of the day, there have been additional newscasts, breaking news, giving intelligence updates to the students, thereby enabling them to better confront the different issues that have come up.
A previously unknown Middle Eastern terrorist organization is planning to conduct simultaneous attacks on the port of New York City and the Louvre Museum in Paris. According to the available information, the attacks are scheduled for some time within the next 24 hours.
The Secretary of State forbade the ambassador and her staff from going to the Louvre until the threat is over. The ambassador responded that this would lead to a major diplomatic crisis with the French, as the pre-inaugural ceremony for the newly elected French Prime Minister was scheduled for that Saturday afternoon at the Louvre.
The students, in terms of the various roles they're playing, have been confronted with two very different scenarios. One is a plan to evidently bomb the port of one of the ports of New York, and the other evidently is to bomb the Louvre Museum in Paris, an inaugural ceremony for the new French Prime Minister. And the question is whether or not the American ambassador attend the ceremony.
Three options for France. We don't go to the ball. 2, we get cooperation for heightened presence. 3, we act without cooperation.
I don't think you should attend.
I agree.
I recommend you not attend if they're unwilling to cooperate with us. But, I mean, that's at risk of cutting all ties with France.
At this point, we have our Marines coming in.
I feel
from
good
Germany.
with the security plan. I just, should, for some reason, relations deteriorate between France and the United States, to the point where they're not willing to cooperate with us in this, I want to know any and all ways we can still have some sort of security plan. I want to know without violating their sovereignty.
So I think we stick to the plan while we have consent. We stick
Okay.
with the plan that we developed this morning for security.
And if we
And
lose it?
if we lose it, then you don't go.
Okay.
From 2 to 2:30,
Okay.
you have in the meeting the CIA station chief, the head of the embassy security.
Everybody that's in there.
That's right. I need to hear from you a summary.
Okay.
We're going to start like in 20 seconds.
Or to start what?
The meeting. We're constantly throwing at them new scenarios. 2 Marines have been injured, I believe, in France.
There's been a gunshot. Somebody fired. We don't know if the fire came from the Marines or if it came from in the crowd, but somebody in the crowd was hit with gunfire.
Okay, Chris.
There's guns in the crowd outside the embassy. Yeah.
Mr. President, the crowd is shooting directly at the embassy now.
Ambassador,
But they're shooting at the embassy.
Wait, hold on,
Engage.
Chris. Before you do anything, this is going to come from me, okay? So you're on the ground. I want to know your analysis of what our options are.
It's going to be up to the President of the United States to make not only recommendations, but he's the one who's going to have to decide what do we do with the Port of New York and what do we do with the threat in Paris? Do we send the ambassador?
Giles Petrovich Westover III traveled on Lufthansa Flight 674, leaving from Istanbul on Saturday evening and arriving via London in Toronto, Canada at 7:30 a.m. this morning. From there, he boarded a flight to New York City. He was recently picked up at the JFK airport. Sources indicate that he was in possession of maps and photographs of the New York City port.
I need to know operationally what we're going to do, okay? I've heard a little bit about legally. What can we do in the waters?
Capabilities are pretty extensive. You know, we could put a missile in some guy's head if that's what we have to do. The collateral damage here can be contained
We need to get personnel, just bodies in deterrence. We need to have we need to add police force and fire department, port authorities.
But not just the port, you're talking in Manhattan.
Right. But
So why do we want to declare a state of
the governor can
Because the Port Authority has exclusive jurisdiction over all the commerce.
Okay.
So the federal doesn't control that. It's the Port Authority. It's a state-run organization
Right.
between New Jersey and New York. Mr. President, I appreciate all of your federal considerations, but I also want to point out that this is a state law matter as well. I think the first thing we need to do is get the mayor of New York on the phone, and we need to declare a state of emergency under state law. That way we release the state officials to do what they need to do to solve this problem.
Going back to the city of New York, how do you most effectively guard the ports? I mean, it's all but impossible to guard all the ports. So you have to make prioritization decisions. You have to analyze risk assessment, risk threat, and that has to be done all in the context of law and policy. And those are the kinds of scenarios that we're throwing at them right now.
This is crucial and imminent, so pay attention. 2 American citizens in the United States with red backpacks
In New York City.
in New York City are carrying red backpacks filled with explosives. The explosives will be detonated at 8:15. Is that clear?
Without intelligence information, it's extremely difficult to make legal and policy recommendations. As a matter of fact, one of the students said to me, we're starved for intelligence. My response to that is exactly the dilemma that decision makers face on a daily basis. How do you make operational counterterrorism decisions if you don't have sufficient intelligence?
So we have additional intelligence that the 2 individuals carrying backpacks will be targeting the port number 1961, located at 601 West 26th Street. They will be entering the area at approximately 8 o'clock, and their bombs will be detonated at 8:15.
Rich, so what you're telling me is you can take the shot.
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is that we can act under legal, justified, based on the proportionate information.
Okay, do it on our end. FBI can act, and the Coast Guard and the National Guard. I want to take the window from this to this.
Right, we're talking about they're entering the premises in 8 minutes.
So I need France and New York on board now.
We can't find it anywhere.
Snipers around for a kill zone, and then you have people on the ground walking around trying to identify someone. I don't know why we are putting our ambassador at stake.
We know where it is, so why don't we just make that a hard line? And at 8:10, anyone hitting that?
8:10 characteristics. The person with the characteristics gets shot.
We got it.
7 hours later, a couple of final thoughts before I send you all home. I would like to think that the past 7 hours helped you understand the dilemmas of the decision maker. And the dilemmas are enormous, and ultimately the president has to decide, but he's totally dependent on those around him, whether they're in New York or in Paris or sitting around this table. What makes it obviously difficult is that you come in here not knowing any of the facts. But let me assure you, that's real life. And in real life, I can only relate to my own personal experiences. And I knew the law and I knew the policy implications, but when a terrorist attack begins, all you know is exactly what you saw in those first 3 newscasts. That's all you know. And then you spend the next X hours or X, Y days or whatever trying to understand the intelligence or to gather the intelligence, trying to build a jigsaw puzzle.